Zira was a breathtaking alien with a figure that could mesmerize anyone, her skin glowing faintly with a soft blue light. She was here on Earth for research, a mission given by her planet's council to observe humans up close. Earth had always intrigued her people. They considered humans primitive, yet strangely emotional and intense. As a top-class scientist and elite observer, Zyra's job was to gather knowledge about these creatures and bring back what she learned. Disguised as an ordinary human, Zyra had blended into this small town, studying Earthlings as if they were complex puzzles. Today, she was sitting on a bench in a quiet city park, watching people chat, laugh, and play. She found it fascinating how humans enjoyed these simple activities. Back on her planet, such casual gatherings were rare. People lived under strict rules, and emotions were considered distractions. Suddenly, Zyra noticed a tall, strong figure strolling through the park with a confident, relaxed stride. He seemed different from the others somehow, exuding a warmth and energy she hadn't seen before. He wore a calm smile as he passed by, his dark hair gently blowing in the breeze. She tried to look away, but her gaze kept drifting back to him. It was as if something invisible was pulling her toward him. The man noticed her staring and chuckled softly. He made his way toward her bench, sitting down just a little distance away. "Not a lot of people here on a chilly evening," he remarked with a grin, his voice deep and friendly. Zyra was taken aback by his directness. People from her world were far more reserved. I just like watching," she replied cautiously, trying to sound casual. Her voice carried an unusual accent that she quickly tried to mask. She hoped he wouldn't notice. "Watching, huh?" he said with a raised eyebrow, clearly intrigued. "Well, I'm Jake. What's your name?" She hesitated for a split second. "Zyra," she replied, trying her best to act natural. "I'm new here." Jake's eyes sparkled with curiosity. "Welcome to Earth, Zyra," he said playfully, as if sensing something unique about her. "So what brings you out to this little town?" Zyra bit her lip, thinking of a believable answer. "I'm here to learn. I find humans interesting." "Interesting, huh? Well, humans are full of surprises," Jake replied with a laugh. "Where are you from?" Zyra glanced away, quickly crafting a vague reply. "Far away. Really, really far away." Jake chuckled again, clearly amused by her mysterious answer. "All right, Miss Faraway, I'll tell you what. If you want to learn about humans, you've come to the right place. I can show you around." For a moment, Zyra wasn't sure if she should agree. She had a mission to complete, and getting too close to any Earthling could complicate things. But something about Jake intrigued her, and she couldn't deny the pull to learn more about him. "Sure," she replied finally, surprising even herself with the answer. "I'd like that." Jake's grin widened, and he stood up, extending his hand to her. She stared at it for a second, confused, but then she realized it was a gesture she had seen humans use. She reached out, placing her hand in his, and felt an odd warmth rush through her. His hand was rough and strong, but there was a gentleness in his grip that made her feel safe. "First things first," Jake said. "If you're new here, you have to try some local food." Humans and food, that's a whole story of its own. As they walked together, Zyra found herself fascinated by the simplicity of human life. Jake pointed out the bright city lights, the busy streets, and the laughter echoing from open cafes. It all seemed so different from her sterile, emotionless home. Here, everything felt alive and free. After a while, they reached a food truck, and Jake ordered something he called pizza. Zyra hesitated, unsure about Earth food, but when she took a bite, she was amazed by the flavors. It was spicy, cheesy, and unlike anything she had tasted. Jake laughed at her wide-eyed expression and grabbed a slice himself. "Pretty good, right?" he asked, watching her with amusement. "It's amazing," Zyra replied, smiling for what felt like the first time in ages. Jake's presence had melted away the professional distance she usually kept. As they strolled through the park, Zyra found herself relaxing more and more. Jake's humor and kindness made her feel like she belonged, even if she knew she was a stranger to this world. For a moment, she wondered if her people had been wrong about humans. Maybe there was more to them than just emotions. Maybe they had something her own kind could learn from. They walked together for hours, talking about everything from Earth seasons to why humans like to look at the stars. Jake was patient, answering her questions with a warmth that made her feel special, as if he saw her for more than just an outsider. When they finally parted ways, Zira realized she was looking forward to seeing him again. And for the first time, she questioned whether she could fulfill her mission without becoming a part of the world she was sent to study. The next evening, Zira couldn't shake the excitement she felt. Her mission was important, but meeting Jake had sparked a curiosity she'd never felt before. She'd studied Earth's cultures and history for years, but being with a human talking face to face was entirely different. It was as if she was seeing everything in a new light. Zira arrived at the park, hoping Jake would be there. To her delight, she spotted him waiting, leaning against a lamppost with his usual warm smile. His relaxed confidence made him stand out in a crowd, and Zira was drawn to his open, genuine nature. She approached him, smiling in return. "Hey there, Mr. Faraway," Jake teased, his eyes bright. "Ready to dive deeper into Earth life?" Zira chuckled, feeling oddly nervous. "Yes, I'm ready," she replied. "What will you show me today?" "Tonight," Jake said. "I thought I'd show you a human tradition we call date night." He grinned as if he'd just told a big secret, and Zira looked at him, puzzled. Date?" she asked, trying to remember the word from her studies. "Isn't that just a day of the month?" Jake laughed, his eyes crinkling at the corners. "Well, yeah, but this is a little different. On Earth, a date is a way for people to spend time together, especially if they like each other." He looked at her meaningfully, and Zira's cheeks warmed, a sensation she wasn't used to. "So, humans have a night just for liking each other?" she asked, a little bewildered. She'd read about human relationships and emotions, but this custom seemed unusual. On her planet, relationships were planned, strategic. No one had special nights just for spending time together. Jake nodded. "Exactly. You could say it's a way for people to connect, to understand each other better. We go out, eat, talk, and just enjoy the moment." This fascinated Zira. Her people rarely connected this way. They only communicated for important matters or when working together on serious projects. This casual bonding felt strange yet thrilling. "All right," she said, accepting his invitation. "Teach me this date night." Jake smiled, extending his arm, and Zira hesitated before taking it, feeling a small thrill at the touch. They started walking, with Jake guiding her to a cozy little cafe that was softly lit and filled with people chatting and laughing. The place was warm and smelled of coffee and something sweet, a comforting atmosphere Zira wasn't used to. Jake found them a small table near the window and they sat down. Zira noticed how relaxed everyone seemed, enjoying their conversations. It was also unlike her world, where interactions were strictly formal and had a purpose. As they looked over the menu, Jake explained, "Humans love food, and sharing a meal together is something we do to bond with each other. You'll find that our food reflects a lot about us." Zira nodded, trying to understand. On her planet, food was simply fuel, consumed without much thought or pleasure. But here, she could see people savoring every bite, laughing and sharing stories. It was an entirely new experience for her. "Do you want to try something sweet?" Jake asked, pointing to a dessert on the menu called chocolate cake. Zira nodded eagerly. She had tried pizza the previous night, and it had been an unexpected delight. When the cake arrived, she hesitated, eyeing the rich, dark slice in front of her. "Go on, take a bite," Jake encouraged, a smile in his eyes. Zira took a forkful and tasted it. The flavors were intense, melting in her mouth, unlike anything she had ever experienced. Her eyes widened and Jake laughed, enjoying her reaction. "See, that's why humans love food. It's one of our simple pleasures." As they continued eating, Jake shared stories from his life, his childhood, his family, and his dreams of exploring the world. Zira listened intently, drawn to his words. There was a warmth and honesty in Jake's storytelling that touched her. She realized that humans not only valued each other's company, but also cherished the moments they shared together. After they finished eating, Jake suggested they take a walk by the nearby river. The city lights reflected on the water, creating a beautiful, calming sight. Zira was enchanted by the simplicity of the scene. She felt something inside her shift, a quiet longing she didn't fully understand. "Do you see that?" Jake asked, pointing to the stars above. "Whenever I look at the night sky, I feel like we're part of something much bigger. And knowing that we're all connected in some way, it's comforting." Zira gazed up at the stars, feeling the same connection. In her world, the stars were just coordinates, places to explore. But here, with Jake by her side, they held a new meaning. A stopped by a bridge overlooking the water, and Jake turned to her, his expression sincere. You know, Zyra, I'm really glad you came here. It's rare to meet someone who's genuinely curious, who sees things the way you do. His words surprised her. No one had ever spoken to her like this, with such openness and kindness. Zyra felt a warmth spreading through her, an emotion she couldn't name. Was this the human connection Jake had spoken of? As they said goodnight, Zyra realized she was looking forward to seeing him again. Her mission had brought her here. But now it was something else, something more personal, that made her want to stay. The next evening, Zyra eagerly arrived at the park, waiting for Jake. She had prepared something special, something her people rarely showed outsiders. Tonight, she wanted to share a bit of her world with him. She had spent the entire day carefully selecting a few gadgets from her personal tech arsenal hidden safely in a compartment on her wristband. These gadgets were designed to keep her safe on Earth, but were also fascinating pieces of her advanced technology. As she waited, she felt a strange blend of excitement and nervousness. She had never shown her technology to anyone outside her own species. What would Jake think? Just then, she saw him approaching, his usual smile lighting up his face. "Hey, Zyra, you ready for another night of human traditions?" he asked, playfully mimicking her tone from before. Zyra laughed, her tension easing slightly. "Actually, I wanted to show you something from my world." She paused, looking into his curious eyes. "If you're interested." Jake's face lit up with excitement. "Are you kidding? Of course I'm interested. What have you got?" Taking a deep breath, Zyra activated her wristband, and a small glowing orb floated up, hovering between them. Jake's eyes widened as he watched the orb emit a gentle light, illuminating the area around them in a soft blue glow. What is that?" he whispered, captivated. "It's called a lumen sphere," Zyra explained. "It can light up any space and adjust to any environment. We use it for exploring dark places, but tonight—" She glanced at him shyly. "Tonight, it's just for you." Jake reached out cautiously, his fingers grazing the sphere, feeling its smooth, warm surface. "This is amazing, Zyra. It's like magic." His awe-filled reaction made Zyra feel proud. Back on her planet, these gadgets were everyday items, nothing special, but seeing them through Jake's eyes made them feel like wonders. Encouraged by his reaction, Zyra showed him a small metallic device that could project images into the air. She activated it, and suddenly, tiny holographic birds appeared, flying in a perfect circle around them. Their wings shimmered as if they were real, and Jake's face broke into a delighted smile. "This is unreal," he said, reaching out to touch the holograms. "You're from a world of incredible technology, Zyra. This is like nothing I've ever seen." Zyra smiled, happy to share this moment with him. She felt a deeper connection forming, realizing that their differences made their friendship even more exciting. For the first time, she felt she could truly share a part of herself without holding back. Then Jake had an idea. "All right, you've shown me your world. Now let me show you something cool from ours." He pulled out his smartphone, an item Zyra had seen but never explored closely. She watched curiously as he tapped the screen, and a song began to play, a slow, soft melody that filled the air. "This is music," he explained, and Zyra listened closely, enchanted by the rhythm and warmth of the tune. Her people didn't have music the way humans did. Their entertainment was more factual and educational. But this was something else entirely. The melody felt like it was alive, carrying emotions she couldn't put into words. "Humans use music to express feelings," Jake continued. "It's how we share emotions, even when words aren't enough." He extended his hand. "Would you like to try something called dancing?" Zyra blinked, unsure. She had read about dancing as a strange, rhythmic movement that humans used in celebrations, but she had never tried it herself. With a mix of curiosity and hesitation, she took his hand. Jake led her gently, showing her how to move to the rhythm. At first, she felt awkward, her movements stiff and unsure, but Jake's warm smile reassured her. Soon, she found herself swaying to the music, letting the melody guide her. She laughed softly, surprised at how free it felt. Jake grinned, holding her hand lightly as they moved. "See? Not so hard. It's all about feeling the music, letting go." As they danced, Zira felt a warmth spreading through her, a feeling she couldn't quite name. It was new, unfamiliar, yet comforting. Being with Jake made her feel grounded in a way she hadn't felt before. She wasn't just an observer anymore, she was part of this world, experiencing it through his eyes. When the song ended, they stood close, caught in a quiet moment. Jake's gaze held hers, a soft expression in his eyes. "Zyra, you're full of surprises. I don't think I've ever met anyone quite like you." Zyra felt her cheeks warm again, a strange but pleasant sensation she was starting to understand as attraction. "Thank you, Jake. I never imagined I'd feel this way about being here. You've shown me that humans are more than I thought. There's a beauty to your world." Jake squeezed her hand gently, his expression softening. "Well, I think you're pretty amazing, too." They continued talking and laughing, sharing stories until the sky turned a dark shade of blue. Zyra showed him a few more of her gadgets, each one impressing him more. For the first time, she felt truly understood, as if Jake saw past her alien origins and appreciated her for who she was. As the evening drew to a close, they both stood under the stars, each lost in thought. For Zyra, this experience had changed everything. She hadn't come to Earth expecting to feel a connection like this. She was here for research, but Jake had opened a new path, showing her that there was so much more to humans than she had ever known. And in that quiet moment, Zyra realized that Earth and Jake might mean more to her than just a mission. The following evening, Zyra felt an undeniable pull to meet Jake again. Her mission felt distant now, a mere task overshadowed by the thrill of her new experiences on Earth. She couldn't stop thinking about the warmth of Jake's smile, the excitement in his eyes when she showed him her technology, and how he had introduced her to the magic of music and dancing. It was all new, captivating, and undeniably human. As she walked to the park, her heart was racing with anticipation. But tonight was different. Zyra had a surprise for Jake, a piece of her culture that she was hesitant but excited to share. Her people had a special item, a crystal pendant that glowed in the presence of strong emotions. It was more than just jewelry. It was a rare object given only to those chosen to carry on their civilization's knowledge and memories. Tonight, she had decided to let Jake see it, hoping he would understand its significance. She spotted him waiting at their usual bench, his relaxed posture a comforting sight. Jake looked up and waved, his smile lighting up his face. "Hey, Zyra, another alien secret to share tonight?" he joked, but she could tell he was curious. She smiled, feeling her cheeks warm. "Actually, yes, but it's something very special to me," she replied, a little nervously. Jake's expression softened, and he leaned closer. "I'm honored. Show me." Zyra took a deep breath and held up the pendant, its crystal surface catching the faint glow of the streetlight. She concentrated, allowing herself to feel the excitement and wonder she felt in Jake's presence. Slowly, the crystal began to emit a soft blue glow, pulsing in rhythm with her heartbeat. Jake watched in awe, his eyes wide. "It's beautiful," he whispered. "What is it?" "It's called an essence crystal," Zyra explained, her voice quiet. "In my world, we use it to carry memories, emotions, even knowledge. It only glows when it senses a strong connection." Jake looked at her, his gaze steady and filled with admiration. "That's incredible, Zyra. You carry so much of your world with you, even when you're so far from home." She nodded, feeling a deep pang of homesickness for the first time since arriving on Earth. Yet, she realized that this new connection, this feeling she had with Jake, was just as meaningful. The crystal pulsed a bit brighter, reflecting her mixed emotions. "Thank you for sharing this with me," Jake said sincerely, his voice gentle. He reached out to touch the pendant, his fingers brushing against hers. The warmth of his touch made the crystal glow even brighter, surprising them both. "Looks like it likes you," Zyra said with a soft laugh, feeling her nervousness fade away. Jake smiled, looking down at the glowing pendant. "Maybe it's because I like its owner," he said, his voice warm and genuine. His words sent a wave of warmth through her, and Zyra felt her heart race. This connection, this human feeling, was stronger than anything she had felt before. They sat in silence for a moment, both lost in their thoughts. Finally, Jake broke the silence. "Zyra, what happens after your mission here? Do you have to go back?" The question caught her off guard. She hadn't thought about it since meeting him, but she knew she couldn't stay on Earth forever. Her mission was to observe and report, not to get attached. But now, with Jake by her side, the thought of leaving felt impossible. I don't know, she admitted, her voice barely a whisper. My people expect me to return once my mission is complete. But she hesitated, not wanting to admit how much she wanted to stay. But things feel different now. Jake looked at her, his expression thoughtful. Sometimes life surprises us. Maybe, just maybe, you don't have to follow all the rules. Maybe there's a way for you to choose what makes you happy. Zira looked into his eyes, feeling a surge of hope. Do humans often break the rules for love? Jake laughed, a warm, genuine sound. All the time. Sometimes, love makes us brave enough to do things we never thought we could. Zira smiled, feeling a new confidence growing inside her. Perhaps there was a way she could stay, a way to explore this strange, wonderful connection she felt with Jake. She had always been a rule follower, but for the first time, she was considering a different path. As they walked back through the quiet streets, Jake reached over and took her hand. She felt a warmth spread through her, calming her worries. This was real, tangible, and she didn't want to let it go. They stopped near a fountain, its water shimmering in the moonlight. Jake turned to her, his gaze filled with a tenderness that made her heart race. Zira, whatever happens, just know that meeting you has been the best part of my life. Her chest tightened, and she found herself leaning closer to him. Jake, I feel the same. You've shown me a side of humanity I never thought existed. In that quiet moment, their worlds felt closer than ever. Without another word, they shared a soft, lingering kiss, a gesture that needed no translation. In that simple act, Zira felt a certainty she hadn't felt before. This wasn't just a mission anymore. This was her journey, her story. As they parted, both of them knew that things had changed. For Zira, Earth was no longer just a planet to study. It had become a place filled with warmth, connection, and love. And Jake had become more than a guide. He was now a part of her heart. They walked hand in hand, knowing that whatever the future held, this bond between them was something worth fighting for. The days following Zira and Jake's kiss felt like a dream. Every moment they spent together strengthened the bond between them. Zira had never felt so close to anyone, especially not a human. But one evening, as they sat on the park bench watching the stars, something unexpected happened. Zira's wristband, which had been silent during her time on Earth, started flashing urgently. A soft but steady beeping sound echoed from the device, drawing Jake's attention. He looked at her with concern. What's that? Is everything okay? Zira's face grew serious. It's a message from my ship, she explained, feeling a pang of worry. Her people were rarely this persistent, unless it was something important. She tapped on her wristband, and a small holographic screen appeared, displaying a message in her native language. Your mission has reached its final phase. Return immediately for debriefing, the message read. Jake's face fell as he looked at the message. Are they asking you to go back? Zira nodded slowly, her heart sinking. She hadn't thought about her mission in days, and the idea of leaving Jake felt unbearable. But she knew that disobeying her orders could have severe consequences. Hold on, you do this daily? Alien girl shocked by earthly affection. HFY Sci-Fi Story. Zira knew her journey with Jake wasn't over. It was only the beginning. Zira sat in the quiet of the spaceship, staring out at the distant Earth growing smaller and smaller as the vessel sped away. Her heart felt heavy, each passing second filled with the memory of Jake and the life she had glimpsed on Earth. The stars around her felt cold and empty compared to the warmth she had found with him. The silence was broken by a voice coming through her wristband. Agent Zira, you've completed your mission successfully. Your report was thorough and informative, a commanding voice said, one of her superiors back on her home planet. But we have noticed some anomalies in your observations, especially the emphasis on emotional connections. Explain. Zira took a steadying breath, trying to sound calm and composed. During my time on Earth, I observed that emotions, love, compassion, friendship, are crucial to human connections. They make humans stronger, more resilient. These qualities have allowed them to survive against challenges they could not overcome alone. A pause lingered over the communication line, and she could feel the weight of judgment from her superiors. They were logical, efficient beings who valued data and function over emotion. She knew she would have to tread carefully, Emotions are a weakness, Zira, her superior continued, his tone sharp. They make beings irrational and lead them to poor decisions. Your duty was to observe their technology, culture, and strengths, not to indulge in human weaknesses. Do you deny this? Zira felt her pulse quicken, her mind flashing back to her time with Jake, the laughter, the kindness, the warmth he had shown her. How could that be weakness? Summoning her courage, she replied, with all due respect, I disagree. Humans' emotional connections give them a reason to fight, to protect, and to innovate. They may be different from us, but their way is effective. I believe there is strength in understanding their emotions. There was a long, uncomfortable silence. Zyra's heart pounded as she waited for a response, fearing that her words had overstepped. She knew her people valued order and precision above all else, and her opinions would likely be seen as an act of defiance. After a moment, the voice on the other end spoke again, but with a new edge. Your experience seems to have affected your judgment, Agent Zira. We will conduct a thorough debrief upon your arrival. For now, you are instructed to cease any further communication with Earth and to detach yourself from these personal emotions. They will only interfere with your duties. As the voice cut off, Zira clenched her fists, feeling a surge of frustration. Her time on Earth had opened her eyes to a different way of living, a way that valued connection and unity. She knew her people's rigid rules and emotionless existence felt empty compared to what she had found with Jake. But was there a way to make her people understand? Lost in thought, Zira suddenly had an idea. She couldn't convince her superiors through words alone, but what if she could show them? If she could demonstrate the strength that emotions brought to humanity, maybe they would understand why she had formed this bond with Jake and why it was worth fighting for. Quickly, she activated a hidden communication relay she had installed on her wristband during her time on Earth. It was an unapproved modification, but Zira knew it was the only way to reach Jake. A faint static buzzed as the connection opened, and she held her breath, hoping he would hear her. "Jake?" she whispered, keeping her voice low. "Can you hear me?" There was a pause, then a familiar voice crackled through the wristband. "Zyra! Is that you?" Relief flooded through her. "Yes, it's me. Listen, I don't have much time. I'm heading back to my home planet, but I'm not giving up. I have an idea, a plan to show my people the strength of human emotions. If I can convince them, maybe I can come back to Earth." Jake's voice was steady but filled with a hint of sadness. "Zyra, whatever happens, I'll wait for you. Just promise me you'll stay safe." "I promise," she replied, feeling a spark of hope. "And Jake, thank you for everything." She cut the connection, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. Zyra knew it wouldn't be easy, but she was determined. She would prove to her people that love, connection, and compassion were not weaknesses, but powerful forces that could bring worlds together. As the ship continued its journey through the stars, Zyra began to prepare her arguments, thinking of every moment with Jake, every emotion he had stirred in her. She would take these memories and turn them into a case, a compelling demonstration of humanity's unique strengths. When she arrived back on her planet, she was taken directly to the debriefing center, where rows of serious-faced officials waited to interrogate her. She stood tall, unafraid, with a newfound resolve. They asked her countless questions, challenging her every point, but she remained firm, explaining the lessons she had learned from humanity. She described the power of friendship, the courage born from love, and how these emotions had made humans strong enough to survive and thrive. Her superiors listened with skepticism, but Zira noticed a few glances of curiosity, faint hints that perhaps, just perhaps, they were beginning to understand. She knew it would take time, but she was determined to continue her mission, now with a new purpose. She would find a way to show her people the beauty and strength of humanity, even if it meant challenging the strict traditions that had ruled her world for centuries. As she left the debriefing center, Zira felt a new sense of hope. This was only the beginning of her journey. One day, she vowed she would return to Earth and to Jake. Until then, she would carry the memory of their time together, a beacon of warmth in her heart, guiding her through the cold, logical world she was bound to. And as she looked up at the stars, Zira whispered to herself, "Wait for me, Jake. I'll find a way back to you. This is only the beginning.